All right, everybody, another episode of Klask Pro. This is David Bowie.
This is Chris Teacup Clinton.
Here we are. I think we're almost hitting 2 months now of quarantine.
Yep.
Things have changed a little bit for me since the last time I spoke to you and to everybody else on this podcast. I'm actually like full-time working from home. Was I working from home last time or partially or?
I think last time we talked, it was partially because you mentioned that you were kind of going into work, but staying
half
home
hours
for most of it. And then, so now you're just completely home.
Yeah. Completely at home. I'm expecting probably won't be back to work until I'm thinking like probably July because it's already May, right?
I know, already May. April disappeared really fast, right? Like it's
really. Well, I mean, even March and I mean, it's summertime. I was barbecuing today and just playing out in the sun, and it was like almost 90 degrees. Like I got a tan today.
Yeah, I was pretty fortunate. Should I admit on the interwebs that I broke my in-home order and went camping? So I went outdoors and quarantined at a very safe distance away from everyone out in the woods the other night. And it was crazy. Just going to sleep and then waking up, it was so warm, like just heat that, like you mentioned, we haven't had yet this year. So, man, it was nice, but it was a little warm, just to be out in the woods suddenly, was not prepared for it. So.
We had a fire going for the barbecue, so I actually cooked over like a wood fire.
Ooh, yeah, that's the way to do it.
Yeah,
it just feels so good.
I smell like I've been camping for 2 days still. Like after this, I need to go take a shower.
I know exactly what that smells like. Hey, on your background video there, I know that's competition, but it doesn't look very Klasky.
Yeah, man.
Tell us about that.
I just wanted to switch things up. I know that, this is Klask Pro and we talk a lot about Klask, but I think that for today's episode, and I kind of wanted to play with this new technology, which is being able to put any video I want in the background. And so I wanted to test this video out. This is me at a shooting competition, I believe 2 years ago. I'm really into it. So this is like a multi-gun competition where you get to shoot pistol and rifle. And this is just some of the footage. So I figured that, the audience that we have, while they love Klask, they might be interested in looking at some other stuff while we talk about Klask.
Yeah, very cool. I like the idea. I mean, it's going to be hard for me because I keep watching this video. My eye keeps getting, caught in the some of the terrain that you're working with there. It's pretty insane, the setup that place looks like they have.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Anyway, real quick, everyone listening, we would like to apologize. If you watched our last video, you may have noticed there was not any video. And that's because the platform that we're using had a little bit of a technical difficulty that caused our video to disappear. Luckily, our audio was, captured. So we were able to at least get the episode released for everyone. Great episode, by the way. It's probably the most chatty Bowie and I have gotten in an episode as far as just hanging out. And it was, pretty close to right after all the quarantine stuff was announced here in the US. So if you have not watched that one, I highly recommend that you do. But we do apologize in advance for it not having any video. We have switched.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say we have switched platforms. Hoping to not have a repeat offender in that case.
Yeah, and that's I was just going to mention that, which is, if something like that messes us up one time, like we're just going to switch and then go to something else that might be more reliable.
That's right. We'll just wave goodbye and move on.
So the video format is going to look different, but still the same faces.
Yeah. Which is fine. I mean, the whole Klask Pro is all about the community and the conversation of Klask. So as long as that doesn't change, I think it's going to be okay. Which again, like I said, we definitely appreciate you watching. And if you have not done so already, we do really appreciate any likes, subscribes, and even comments that you might leave. It all helps us grow as a channel as well, which I'm sure everyone at this point knows in the YouTube world is very important to making sure we can continue doing this at a successful pace. So we do appreciate your time in watching Klask Pro and hope that you find it beneficial to your life. Bowie, I've seen you take a couple sips and I cannot handle it anymore. What is in your cup?
Today I have another whiskey. Oh, whoa. Oh.
We don't get to see it.
That's so funny. Okay. It's Blanton's. If anybody that drinks whiskey, they'll know exactly what it is. Top tier liquor, very difficult to find right now. So every time I go to the liquor store, I'll ask if they have it in the back because they don't put it out front because it'll get hoarded. Blanton's is the toilet paper of the whiskey world.
Oh no!
Not crazy expensive. They MSRP at like $60 a bottle.
Okay.
But super hard to find right now.
Dang. Well, I'm glad you got your hands on some.
Yeah.
You know the right people.
What about you?
So, I'm actually just having this Guinness.
Okay.
Yeah. This is cool. This, by the way, if anyone likes Guinness in the the nitro infused brew, this one's cool. They have like this little nitrogen ball inside. I don't know if you can hear it in there.
Yeah.
But when you pop the can, it releases the nitrogen. So when you pour it into a glass, it's as though it's being poured from a nitrogen tap. It's actually really clever. So yeah, I just have a little bit of Guinness today, and gosh, I've been on a Guinness kick the last few weeks, and it's been very good, very good to me.
Yeah, you're such I can certainly tell that you're a lot more of a beer drinker than I am.
Yeah, and vice versa. You're a lot more of a hard liquor drinker than I am. Straight for the most part. Like I'm an incredible fan of fancy cocktails, if you will. But yeah, just knowing my liquors and going straight liquor, I just don't do that often. Perhaps one day I'll build up that palate, but for now, I'm beers there or the fancy cocktails. You make a cocktail and throw like an egg white on it. I don't even care what it is. I'll drink it. It's just that's all you have to say. It has an egg white, and I'm instantly intrigued.
Yeah, I was at a restaurant and somebody had something like that. It was like a whiskey with like egg whites, and it grossed me out. So I couldn't drink it. I just did not want anything to do with it.
Not for everyone, that's for sure.
No.
So what is for everyone is some Klask related content, and that's what Bowie and I on Klask Pro are here to provide. So today we're on episode 7, I believe.
Yep.
So I should have a legit tally, but I don't. So yeah, we're on episode 7. This specific episode we're calling the 2020 Klask World Championship Update. I think it's a fitting name.
Yeah, I think so.
Bowie, what do you think this episode's about?
An update of KWC.
KWC. Yeah, so basically we're going to talk about 2020 KWC, Klask World Championship, and its relationship in current status with the COVID-19 outbreak that's happening pretty much worldwide at this point. It's been pretty quiet on the Klask front. Have you heard anything? Really?
Well, I saw something on Facebook, and I can't remember where it was from. Um, it was on Facebook. It was somebody that does reviews of games, I believe. And I thought I saw that they said something about the tournament not happening anymore, but I just thought it was weird that there was some type of review site for games that was stating that about something that I didn't think that there was any connection with. So
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't want to ever say that I have my ear on every Klask related thing on the internet. That would probably be impossible. But I do feel usually I feel pretty confident in knowing or hearing these things, and I have not heard of a game reviewer with an update as important as that one would be.
yeah,
So I'm curious, maybe after the show, or we can release it in show notes or something. But hopefully after the show, you can hook me up with that information. I'd be very curious to see who that is. If it's someone who has their finger on the pulse of what Klask is doing, then there's someone I would like to talk to and get a little bit of those words as well.
apparently.
So,
What about you? Have you heard anything?
I haven't heard anything directly. There's been some mumblings via comments and social media. There's also been I don't know if you can call it an announcement, but it was like a post by Klask Italia, who I think everyone in the Klask community can agree is one of the leaders in Klask related content and information, even though they are not directly related to Klask, the game. They do play a big role in the in the tournament side of the game, and also in the community growth side of the game. So they are, I think, a pretty reputable source for information. And they haven't come out directly and said anything, but they did release a post mid-April that had said something with a picture that said like breaking news. And it basically had said something about them focusing on the World Cup. They call it the World Cup. It's the World Championship, same. World Cup 2021 being their focus going forward. Then they have a little bit of it's all translated, by the way. It's Italian translated to English, so I don't know if it's perfectly translated, but it essentially mentions that as far as I can tell, it essentially is mentioning that 2021 season is in a way canceled for them, and that their focus is on 2021 going forward. And if they're focused on 2021, I imagine it's because they have heard 2020 no longer matters. And if that's the case, I would have to make the assumption that it's because it's been canceled to some extent. But with that said, no official announcement that I've seen. No official announcement I've seen directly from Klask. So that could be maybe they do plan on making an official announcement, or maybe they're like, hey, this is the decision we've made, but we're not going to announce it because we might change that decision. I don't know. So yeah, I haven't heard anything direct. There's been no official announcement, so it's hard to say, but from what I can tell, it feels like the community is leaning towards 2020 season is no longer happening due to the COVID-19 outbreak.
Yeah. I mean, that's a bummer to hear. I was really looking forward to competing this year. I think obviously any of the top competitors are always looking at a mindset that, this year is going to be their year, represent their country, represent their skills. So yeah, I mean, just to imagine that I'm going to have to do this kind of lead up to playing in the tournament again for a whole nother year when it already feels like it's been a year kind of stinks.
Yep. No, I agree. It's definitely, if it is true, and the 2020 Klask World Championship and the related tour is canceled, then yeah, it's a gut punch for sure. Um, and I like what you said, that every competitive player has that mindset that this is their year to represent their clubs and play style and teams and country, hopefully in the end. And I think you're right. Both you and I know that you and I have that mindset, and I'm sure a lot of the players we're aware of do. And it certainly hurts to know, regardless of how much practice we can or cannot get this season, it won't translate into meaningful tournament play this year. I think every game is meaningful to some extent or another, but as far as it turning into an opportunity to play in the U.S. Championship, and then the World Championship, is a big deal to lose those opportunities. So hopefully, what we kind of heard in the webs of the world aren't true, but if they are true, I do look at it as a pretty, I don't know. See, this in the show notes when they're being written up, I wanted to put in here like, oh, I think it's, really bad they made this decision because this hurts the players, it hurts the whole community. But part of me is also like, it was a good decision if it was made, because obviously safety is a big deal for them. Klask requires there to at least be two players in a short distance of each other, right? So I'm sure if they made the decisions because they realized Klask isn't the type of game to, put people at risk playing. So I guess it's good from a health standpoint, and to ensure that no one is going to suffer the consequences of making COVID-19 travel even further. That part is good, but the pain that it causes for the players in the Klask competitive scene is certainly bad. I think losing a whole season, especially this early in the development of Klask competitive play, is a bummer. Klask competitively, as far as players and spectators, needs as much opportunity as possible to get further in that limelight, if you will, and to take a season away is going to make that rough, let alone people who can play really great against their friends but need time in tournaments to grow their skills. Well, now 2020 has no opportunity to grow your skills.
Yeah. I mean, and to your point, for me, I always look at this kind of like as a third party where I remove myself from my own feelings about and selfishly how I feel. And, you have to consider that, Klask is still a business, and the risk that nobody wants to take is the liability of somebody getting sick, ill, or dying from an event that is put on by Klask. So, at least on my viewpoint, is we kind of have to respect the fact that if we were the owners of Klask, would you personally want to take the liability of a virus that has taken over the entire world and changed life as it is right now until, maybe hopefully the next couple months where things will go back to normal?
Right. And I think what you kind of posed the question there, Bowie, is great, because I have to tell you, if that was my decision to make, and just knowing there's a chance that someone went to one of the tournaments that I held and made the decision to hold, if someone made that decision to go to that tournament and they in some way or another got the coronavirus and then went home and, let's say they won the tournament and their grandma hugged them and said, "Oh my gosh, good job, I'm so proud of you," and then gave the corona to their grandma and their grandma passed away from the side effects of that. And that got back to me as like, hey, because of the tournament, this happened. Like, I cannot tell you the coping problems I would have with that. So it's little things like that where you you have to really understand the decision that was made by Klask to cancel everything. If they did, again, no official announcement's been made. We're kind of going under the assumption that what people have heard is true. And if it is true, I definitely can't hold anyone in ill mind because I get it. It sucks, but I get it. You got to think about this. There's a chance. Currently, there is a chance that there's no NBA champion this year because of COVID. There's a chance the baseball season is possibly canceled. The NFL season, which hasn't even officially started yet, may end up canceled. They seem to be very headstrong on it not happening.
Yeah, I just saw the Seahawks schedule.
Yeah, exactly. So they released some schedules, but who knows if they're going to occur. But like March Madness, one of the biggest tournaments in the USA, college basketball, right? Biggest tournament, done. No 2020 March Madness. Like
they were in the heart of it, though. They were in the heart of.
That's correct. Everything. They were, but it does put Klask in perspective. Like we're a very small. I think many people outside the Klask community would say a fringe sport or fringe competition. And I would agree, though I disagree because of my personal feelings. I would agree with that because I get it. I'd understand what they're saying. So, like, we're not nearly even close to as important as some of these other sports who have considered or have canceled their seasons, or at least major tournaments. And, when you put that into perspective, it definitely makes sense that Klask would cancel the season as well if they did. So it's mind-boggling, the situation that the world is in. Sports obviously aren't as important as life, even though, gosh, I would like to see a game. I would like to go play in a tournament of Klask, actually, is what I would like to do.
I think it just ended, but tonight is the night that UFC put on a fight for the first time in, I think, a few months.
Okay, so see, I had heard that they were going to make a fight happen, and then I thought I had read something saying they decided to just not do that.
No, it happened. I just saw a headliner.
Huh?
Just saw a headliner of who won one of the title fights, and I was seeing on Facebook on how weird the video was because there's like nobody there. It's really quiet. I mean, think about watching a UFC fight and there's like no crowd.
How weird.
Apparently the commentators were like, it was totally different. The setup was really different. And
yeah, that's bizarre. I don't know if you've heard of it or watched it, but I watch Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel on HBO a lot. And their most recent episode was about the sports community dealing with COVID-19. And they had some pretty famous sports commentators as special guests, all via webcam, of course, on their episode. And they were mentioning they had three of the commentators for different sports on one segment, all asked the same question of, do you think there'll be any more games in 2020? And how would announcing for those games go? Doing the commentating for those games go? And a couple of them were like, yeah, I think so. Whatever needs to happen. But one of them was very straightforward, saying, I go to bed every night wondering if I'll announce a game this year. And honestly, even if I do, I don't know if I want to, because part of sports is the crowd. It's the community of people within that stadium cheering and feeling the emotion of the crowd. And without that, it's hard to say that there's a reason to do it. And he was pretty matter of fact about it. He obviously worded it a lot more emotionally and accurately than I can. But it definitely put things into perspective to how affected the sports community has been. And I know some people question if Klask is a sport. I agree it's a board game and just a game, but on a competitive level, I can't see saying anything else other than considering it a sport. So when the sports community is affected in certain ways, I think we're affected in the same exact ways. Maybe not as high of a standard, but still affected in those same ways. And I could, like, for instance, Klask is so small. We play tournaments or games all the time with no, I guess you could say, with no actual fan base or spectators present. But a lot of the times, especially in these major tournaments that we have, there is spectators, most of them players, but they're spectators. And it would be bizarre. Could you imagine a world championship with no crowd? Ugh, it just would be very bizarre.
I mean, maybe. I mean, but we're used to playing with
Absolutely.
just the players, right?
Correct.
In a quiet room. I think we already talked about this on a different episode, but for Klask players, what I believe is that it throws them off most people when there's a crowd of people versus it being really quiet and just the two competitors.
Absolutely. I think it would certainly dictate a different outcome for sure, whether there's a crowd or no crowd. I agree 100%. Some players would play better and some worse for sure. So who knows? We'll have to wait and see. I hope Klask makes an official announcement soon, because I don't want to lean my mindset either direction until I know for sure. But as of right now, I have started to come to terms with the 2020 season ending and trying to refocus all of my mental, mental game mind to 2021 season. So hopefully it isn't that, but part of me understands that it likely is that. So I have to be prepared for the 2021 season if that's the next season I can compete in. With that said, for everyone out there that's hoping to be in the next tournament, whether that's this year or in 2021 next year, even if you don't have someone that you can safely play with because of in-home orders or quarantine, what have you, still get your board out and play. I can't stress this enough. Just the hand-eye coordination and building that skill of seeing the ball and feeling the board is going to help you. It cannot replace actual play, so don't expect that, but it will at least keep your mind in the correct stance of preparedness for a match when you can play one. And yeah, I can't stress that enough. I mean, you have to do it if you want to be competitive. We're certainly, people who don't have someone to play with directly during these times are going to be at a disadvantage for a short period. But when everything gets, back to normal, at least you will have the being comfortable with your board and the pieces and the hand-eye coordination down, and that will help you immensely with the growth of your game when we can get back to matches.
Which, to kind of branch off of that topic, I still allotted, let's just call it funding for the championship destinations that were going to happen. So, I mean, I'll kind of leave it open to the rest of the U.S. out there and anybody listening, which is if you think you're good enough, or you would like to test the limits and play a game on video, and you think it's worthwhile for myself, I'll fly out there and play a game. I'm hoping that you have a also beautiful city that I might be able to visit while I'm there. But if there is no tournament happening, I'm fine with playing some other players that I haven't played before that have a certain qualification of skills, I might have to call out to Alvin and his crew. I've seen some videos that they've set up.
They seem good.
Pretty good, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's usually 3 people I see on his videos. So if I'm
Yes.
gonna roll down there, Alvin, if you wanna host a little party,
He's calling you out.
yeah, I'll come down there and play all your players for fun. Or if you want to put $100 on it, we can. But
Yeah.
just to stimulate myself and keep things rolling, play with new players. I've got some miles, man. I'm more than willing to use it. And if I can't get in any U.S. championship, qualifying rounds this year, I'm more than okay with flying out somewhere across the U.S. and playing other people. So
Yeah. You heard it here first, everyone. Klask Pro 2020 tournament coming up.
that wouldn't be such a bad idea if
It really wouldn't. I mean, we need something, and I also need to play, so I would do it.
what
The
we
only
should
problem,
do. We should say, let's get a comment going where if anybody's actually really interested in doing like some kind of unregistered unranked tournament, like we all meet in Vegas or something.
oh, that would be sick. And Vegas flights are so cheap right now.
Yeah, they're like $50 or something.
They're so cheap.
I actually booked a Vegas flight, and I did like the Vegas flight itself was cheap, but then like what was amazing was the hotel. Like I did like a upper suite level balcony floor at the Cosmopolitan overlooking the Bellagio fountains. I mean, it was just everything is super low cost right now.
Yeah, it's a great deal. I mean, at post episode, we might need to discuss this, and then everyone get pumped up. There might be something happening here. So this is the one issue with traveling right now, though, is a lot of places, as soon as you land, you're on a 14-day quarantine before you can go out to public. Now, if you get caught, it probably won't happen, but if you do, could be an issue. So hopefully those type of things get released sooner than later, to where we can start to make something like a little Klask Pro tournament occur. That'd be a lot of fun, actually, I think.
Yeah.
So. And trust me, I am down for some great competitive play because I need it. You can only practice solo stuff so long before you're like, this isn't helping me anymore. So, you mentioned Alvin, which I have to admit was an interesting way to segue into this one question, 2 answers segment that we do every episode. Which, by the way, everyone, we appreciate hearing your comments and everything. So if you continue to drop comments in either the video or via social media, Bowie and I, mostly Bowie, admittedly, will find them, and we will get them in one of our episodes to answer. And the reason I mentioned that Alvin being mentioned is important on this one is because we got a question a couple months ago from Zach Murdoch on episode 5, I believe. He left a comment in the YouTube episode 5 video, and he had asked where we got the barriers, or how you can get your hands on some barriers for Klask. And those actually came from Alvin. He sent those to us to kind of play and review, which I admit I was in no way interested in, but I wanted to give them a fair chance. And I'm so happy I did, because I really do enjoy them, specifically for crowded play. If you're in any type of crowded space, or even just in a space where you don't want to continue to get up and retrieve biscuits, they're absolutely brilliant for that. I still don't know if my heart's been swayed on competitive play, but for regular casual play, especially at crowded bars, absolutely incredible. My barriers were unfortunately stolen, as many of you know at this point. So hopefully I can get another pair soon. I don't want to assume too much, but I think Alvin is in the medical business or community. I
Industry.
guess we don't want to call it a business. It
Yeah, a
seems
lot of
rough.
his class videos, he's in scrubs. So
He looks like he's in scrubs.
yeah,
Yeah. So I don't want to assume too much, but I have a feeling he's very, very occupied right now. So I don't think the creation or movement of barriers is very high on his priority list. And understandably so, if that's the case. So anyway, to answer your question, Zach, the barriers came from Alvin, who is a player within our, the Klask community. He, I think, eventually planned to make and sell them, but from what we just said, likely not happening for a while. He has not released absolute plans, but he has said it's just plexiglass, which it seems. Bowie, do you think it's like 1/8 inch plexiglass?
maybe. I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
it's about 1/8 of an inch. I don't think it's as thick as a 1/4 inch, but it certainly could fit the 1/8 of an inch. He has not released the measurements, but it's about 1/8 of an inch plexiglass, a straight edge, a plexiglass cutter. He said he used a Dremel, and I think that's for the notches that he makes in them. He posted a picture on Reddit with those notches. So if you went to the subreddit and for Klask on there, you can kind of look through those posts. There's not too many of them, and he did mention this list, and he also included a picture of what the notch looks like and some sandpaper, essentially saying it's pretty easy to build. And from what I've seen, in Bowie, maybe you could relate, it does actually look relatively simple to build if you have the measurements, which you have a board. If you have a board, you can make the measurements, and it's only, would you say it's probably only like 4 inches high, 4 or 5 inches tall.
Yeah,
So,
it's a couple inches. I never thought about. I think we've all thought about like what could we create to not necessarily keep the biscuits in, but to just to lessen the load of finding biscuits.
the retrieval.
The retrieval sucks.
Yeah.
So like for me, like this was a year ago or something. I was thinking, what happens if you made like a wireframe dome, right? Where the magnets would stick to this like wireframe dome. Visibility wasn't affected too much because it'd just be kind of like a net of wire.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah.
But how the heck do you create that?
Man, I've seen all sorts of different little things. The barriers were the reason I like those, because they seem to be the easiest and most effective. I've seen a really cool. It's very hard to explain, but it was a netting that connected to the corners of the board, came out and up. So it was like mostly just on the side. So biscuits could still leave from the player side, but them leaving from the left or right wall was pretty hard to do. That one was pretty cool, but kind of a mess to set up. I've also seen, this is unrelated to biscuits, but I've seen little lights that connect to the four corners of the board, like little stadium lights. I think Kev was working on that project, like trying to make stadium lights for Klask. So there's all these little fringe, products being made as components. Bowie, we should do an episode about that soon, where we talk about accessories, whether they're available or even just thought of accessories. I think that'd be a fun episode.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool.
Yeah,
Like
so
I told you my idea a while ago about making custom Klask pieces, right? Could you imagine if you like had your striker and it was like multicolored, or it was like your golden piece or something like that?
oh my gosh,
The
it would
issue
be
with that
so
is like
cool.
regulation, right? Like, is it heavier than like another person's striker? Is it,
Right.
is the material that's made like better than the other? That's like the issues you run into. But that would be really cool, if like you could use like your own custom pieces.
Yeah, it would be so cool. Like, it would be awesome. Like, I would throw in some money to get a custom piece with like a teacup symbol on there for sure.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that would be a big issue. I mean, realistically, if it just had the symbol of a teacup, um, I don't think that's going to
It
be
shouldn't be.
affecting game.
I did see these players in Asia, not sure exactly where in Asia, but I seen that they put little flags on their strikers with their symbols on them, their logos. That was pretty cool, but it did occur to me, if the striker fell over, it would be possible for that flag to affect the movement of the ball, and that's where it lost me. I was like, it would be, it's such a cool thing, but just having that one little chance that it affects the game, I was, there went I took my money out of that, that account.
Well, that kind of reminds me of I've heard people ask this before, which is, where do you get the tape that's underneath the striker piece? Obviously you get it when you buy extra additional parts from Klask.
Yep.
And I believe it's the same material that you can get from Amazon, which it's called CS Hide Mouse Disc with one side clean removal adhesive.
Yep.
However, there's different varying sizes.
Yes.
So I know that the ones that come in the Klask additional pieces is oversized where it wraps around the striker.
Yeah.
Right? It comes up and then you kind of
Just a little bit. Yeah.
Just a little bit. The ones that I get are 1/2 inch diameter. So it doesn't wrap it at all. It fits right on there. The other issue and con with that is that they will peel or start deteriorating at a quicker rate because the edges are on the bottom versus being wrapped around. But I guess you could say that my argument is, if it's wrapped around the piece and the striker where the ball is actually hitting, then is it affecting gameplay versus having something that's perfectly cut for underneath the striker?
Yeah, and it's a great question. So I actually have bought. The other thing about that too is the nice thing is you buy a roll of them on Amazon. They last you a very long time. I have a roll that I've had for like 6 months now, and I'm not even halfway through it. And I change. I have like 4 different boards I use on a regular basis, and I switch them all out after every couple plays on those boards. So I mean, I use it a lot, and I still have a bunch left. Anyway, I bought in both the 1/2 inch and the 3/4, I think it is.
Yeah.
I like both. I've ended up going with the 3/4 and then cutting it down, because the one thing I don't like with the 1/2 inch one is it fits so perfect that if you're off when you go to place it, sometimes it can ruin it, when you go to replace it. And if you're very skilled at it, then obviously this is a no problem issue. But for me, I always seem to get it off first try. So I just went 3/4, pound it on. Then I use a razor blade to cut off the excess and make it perfect looking every time, which I'm a big fan of. What I would say though, too, on the 3/4 ones, or the ones that come in the spare parts that overlap a little bit, as far as I can tell, the ball cannot touch the area where the excess tape is. Like, it's just not possible. The one thing that would change that is biscuits are possible to be touching the tape, and obviously the sidewall, which might not be a big deal. I've played enough with it overhanging to kind of confirm that I don't feel or see a negative effect by it, but even knowing that it's possible is why I still cut it up, the excess off. So if you don't mind having a razor blade with your kit, which is what I did. I have my PFT tape and a razor blade all in the same kit, and I just take the old ones off, slap new ones on, razor blade around it, and good to go. So I'm glad you mentioned that. So yeah, you basically, what you said there, Bowie, was Amazon, right? That's kind of where I found it as well.
Yeah.
So that was a good one. Oh, I almost forgot. This is why you do show notes, folks. Zach Murdoch on our YouTube comments also mentioned the question, posted the question where to find matches, games to play, people to play with, tournaments to get into. Now, we don't know where Zach lives that I know of. Has he sent a message or anything directly to you?
No.
Okay, yeah. So I don't know where he's located. This answer definitely changes based on where you live, because I know of some places where there's activity, but if you're not near them, then I probably can't help you. Um, you know, I think we've talked about this a little bit before, Bowie, because your answer to this was kind of like play with people at work, right? I think that's what you said before. I
Well,
loved
not
it.
everybody has the luxury of being able
Right.
to play people at work.
True. So I have two answers for this one
Wait,
question. Two
wait.
answers. Oh,
Zach Murdoch. Found him on
yeah.
our Klask, the US Klask page or group.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, okay. So I found him on our Klask United States group.
Mm-hmm.
And the last post he made was on, let's see, March 17th. That doesn't tell me anything. March 8th, he asked any class players in the Texas DFW area. Which,
Okay.
funny enough, I remember this guy because when he asked that, I said, dude, where were you 2 weeks ago when I was there?
You know what? I think I might be in that thread, Bowie, because I think I've done the same thing. I was also there just a few weeks prior to that, I think.
So, yeah, Dallas, Fort Worth area, which from what I remember, there's a couple players that are registered players in Texas, but Texas is huge.
Right.
So you're
I
talking,
think most of them are in Houston,
yeah.
but there is some in the Dallas Fort Worth area. So, Zach, hopefully you're watching this episode as well. There is a couple in the Dallas Fort Worth area. Just get on there and hopefully continue to try to get their attention. On top of that, go to claskworld.com. I don't think it's been updated in a while, at least since the quarantines have started in the US, but go there and they have a player finder tool. And a lot of people, I don't know if the people in your area have done it, but if they haven't, I recommend at least you do. And it's a way for you to post where you live, or area you live in, and then like your contact information. So hopefully players can connect with this tool and get some matches. And the other little thing that I would say is to find a club. And your answer is probably going to be there isn't one, which I expect to hear at this point. And my answer to you at that point is make it. Um, honestly, you make it. If you're listening to this video, then you're the one that needs to make it happen. Just get you and any friends that you have that play, pick a place that you really like, try to pick a consistent date or day of the week, and just go and meet up and post about it in as many social outlets as you can. Say, hey, friends and family, friends and I are going to such and such place every Wednesday to play some class. We'd love to have you out. Some of your friends and family will probably come check it out, hopefully, fingers crossed. But some other people that you haven't met, some strangers, will watch you play and ask about it. And when you tell them, hey, we meet here every Wednesday or every other Wednesday, come out and we'll teach you the game. That's how you start to get a club going. That's how you start to be able to play local tournaments or matches, and it will help a lot. I don't know if you can see it on this video too well, but like my club right there on my door, it's a flag we just recently got for the club, Ole Klask Club. We, prior to in-home orders, met every Wednesday at one of our favorite breweries, Matchless Brewery, and we would play Klask for 2 to 4 hours, depending on how many people showed up. And the benefit to it was absolutely incredible. Can't wait for the in-home order to be over and lifted so we can go back to our meets. So anyway, that's what I'd say. If you don't have a club, make the club. You make the club. You're the one that has to do it. It's not too hard. Don't overthink it. Just have fun with it. The whole point is to play some Klask. That was a lot of talking, Bowie. I'm sorry.
This is what the show is all about. It's about talking.
It's true. So with that said, though, I do have to stop talking. Have some plans I have to get to. So,
I guess we'll end it with thank you for watching. Like, subscribe our multiple social media channels from YouTube to Instagram, Facebook. I don't know if you're still doing the Twitter thing, but
so I still have it. I still look at it. Do need to post. We really need to post on social media more collectively. So we'll try to do that. Hopefully we'll start to get back on top of our videos. I'm sure some of you viewers have noticed our videos have been sporadic. Mostly it's kind of odd for being in a quarantine with in-home orders, how busy you and I, Bowie, have maintained to be. So.
I mean, other than the fact that I work from home, it's the same life, right? Like,
yep.
I have a 1.5-year-old and a 3.5-year-old. Anybody that has kids in that range knows that me even being able to do this right now is insane. Added onto the fact that I've been staying up to 3 a.m. playing Call of Duty Warzone. I seriously think I've had like 3 hours of sleep today.
Oh my goodness, I believe it. Yeah, I absolutely believe it. So, yeah, we'll try to hopefully overcome those obstacles and try to get back on track. And I'm sure, from the last time I think I told you, my work life has not changed one bit. I'm still going every day and essentially working the same amount of hours and everything. So that's why my life has essentially not changed. Just a lot less money out at bars and restaurants. That's what I've noticed. So I have more money to spend on Klask boards.
Yeah, I probably spend more money on alcohol now because I just go to the liquor store and bring it home.
Yeah, I can see that. Oh, man. Well, Bowie, that's a wrap for episode 7, man. It was another great one. So glad we made it happen.
All right, guys.
Thanks for watching.